Hello friends, today in this video we are going to discuss about the concept of species and also the concept of taxonomy. Okay, so now at first let's discuss about the concept of species. So species definition for higher organisms and for bacterial prokaryotic organisms are different. So now at first let's discuss about the species definition for higher organism. So a species is defined as organisms which are capable of sexual reproduction. That means they can naturally interbreed and produce fertile offspring. So for example, suppose if these two organism can naturally interbreed with each other and produce fertile offspring, then we can say that these two organisms belong to a same single species. Okay, so this is the definition of species for higher organisms. If they naturally interbreed with each other and produce fertile offspring, then we can say that they belong to the same species. Okay, and the species definition for bacteria is different from higher organism because these bacterial organisms or the prokaryotic organism cannot perform sexual reproduction or they cannot perform interbreeding. So that's why their species definition is different. So what is the species definition for bacteria? So a bacterial species is a collection of strains that share a similar G plus C composition, that are 70%, more than 70% similarity in their G plus C composition. Then we can say that organisms belong to similar species. So for example, suppose if these two organism or if these two strain have or share similar cytosine plus guanine plus cytosine composition in their DNA, more than 70% similarity in their guanine plus cytosine composition, then we can say that these two strain or these two organism belong to same bacterial species. Okay, so this is one type of definition for bacterial species. And next one is a bacterium whose 16S RNA sequence differ by more than 3% from that of others, then we should be considered a new bacterial species. So we can say that, so for example, if these two organisms 16S rRNA differ by more than 3%, then we can say that these two organisms belong to two different bacterial species. And in other way we can say that if these two organisms 16S RNA sequence is similar in more than 97%, then we can say that these two organisms belong to same bacterial species. Okay, so depending on the 16S RNA sequence, we can also classify them as a species, they belong to same species or not. Okay, so these are the concept of species for higher organisms and for bacteria or prokaryotic organisms. Now let's discuss about the concept of taxonomy, the taxonomy of species. Okay, so what is taxonomy? So taxonomy is a process of categorizing, classifying and naming of species. So to give a name to a species and to classify the species and categorize them into different category, so that process of naming system is known as the taxonomy. Okay, so here we can see that this is the taxonomic hierarchy. This is the taxonomic hierarchy which is introduced by Carolus Linnaeus, which is known as hierarchical naming system. Okay, so here in this taxonomic hierarchy 8 taxons are present. Each of this unit of this taxonomic hierarchy is known as taxon, and here in this taxonomic hierarchy 8 taxons are present. The highest taxon is the domain. And this domain is differentiated or categorized into 3 categories, that are bacteria, archaea and eukarya. So all the living organisms which are present in world, all the living organisms are categorized into these 3 domains, that are bacteria domain, archaea domain and eukarya domain. Okay, and the next taxon is the kingdom. So in this, according to this taxonomic hierarchy, there are 6 kingdoms are present to represent all the different types of living organisms. So all the living organisms, different type of organisms are categorized into different kingdoms according to their characteristics. So that kingdoms are Eubacteria, Archaebacteria, Plantae, Animalia, Fungi and Protista. Okay, and the lowest taxon is the species. So how we can describe or how we can discuss about this taxonomic hierarchy. So suppose if two organisms share their characteristics with each other, or if two strain share their characteristics with each other, then we can say that two organisms belong to same species. In that way, if two species have few similarities with each other, then we can say that two species belong to same genus. And in this way, if two genus have few similarities with each other, then in this way that two genus will belong to this single family. In this way, if two family have some similarities with each other, then that two family belong to single order. So in this way, the taxonomic hierarchy getting increased, or they increased in this way. Okay, so this is the taxonomic hierarchy. So the lowest taxon is the species, or two organisms or few organisms which are similar in their characteristics, they belong to single species, or and in this way two or three species, if they show the same characteristics, then they belong to the same genus. And if the two or more than two genus have the same characteristic, then they can belong to same family, same single family. And if more than two or three families have same characteristic or few similarities in there, then they can belong to same single order. So in this way they have different taxons, and the highest taxon is the domain, and there are 3 domains are present and 6 kingdoms are present according to taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, so these are the taxonomic hierarchy of species. And here we can say that for the taxonomic hierarchy of humans, so for humans the species is sapiens. So all the humans belong to same species, that is the sapiens, and their genus is Homo, family is Hominidae, order is primates, class is Mammalia, phylum is Chordata, kingdom is Animalia, and they belong to the domain of Eukaryota. Okay, so this is for humans. So this is all about the taxonomy of species. And the last thing is, every species has 2-part naming system. So every species have 2-part scientific name, their scientific name. So how they give their scientific name? So that scientific name is a binomial nomenclature. The scientific name is given by the binomial nomenclature. Binomial means 2-part naming system. 2-part naming system means in their name 2 part will be given. The first part will be genus, the first part will be organism's genus name, and the second part represent the organism species name. So in this way a scientific name of an organism is given. Okay, so these are all about the concept of species and the concept of taxonomy. Okay, thank you for watching this video.